What if the most brilliant person in your building was someone you've never even said hello to? Someone who walks past unnoticed, invisible, but not by choice. This is the story of a janitor who spoke 8 languages, who mopped floors by night, and could negotiate deals by day. When a CEO overheard a conversation in Mandarin, it sparked a discovery that would shake the entire company, and by the end, nothing would be the same. If you believe talent has no uniform, if you've ever felt overlooked or underestimated, this is your story too. Stay until the end. Because what happens in the final 5 minutes may just change how you look at every hallway you walk through. Welcome to The Janitor Who Spoke 8 Languages and the CEO Who Finally Listened. It was supposed to be just another Tuesday, the kind that disappears into your calendar without a ripple. But fate doesn't ask for permission before it rewrites a story. And for Michael Reynolds, CEO of Global Tech Innovations, that story started in the most ordinary of places, the lobby. 3 a.m. The kind of morning where caffeine felt like a lifeline. Elevators hummed, shoes clicked against marble floors, phones buzzed with meetings and messages in minor crises. And Michael, with a half-empty espresso and a full inbox, was already lost in his thoughts. He walked with purpose, not because of where he was going, but because CEOs don't meander. They stride, command, move like the clock owes them something. But then, a voice, sharp, clear, and unmistakably fluent in Mandarin. He stopped mid-step. The voice didn't belong to a sales exec or a translator. It belonged to a woman in gray coveralls, holding a spray bottle, leaning slightly as she guided a confused visitor near the directory screen. Her voice was calm, measured, perfectly accented. Michael blinked. Janitorial staff. Mandarin. His ears caught the shift again. Spanish fluent. No hesitation. Then, French smooth, polite. 3 languages in the span of 60 seconds, delivered with the ease of someone flipping a switch. And suddenly, everything slowed down. The emails could wait. The meeting could wait. Because this moment demanded attention, and Michael Reynolds hadn't built a multi-billion-dollar company by ignoring the unexpected. He approached slowly, not out of suspicion, but wonder. The woman turned toward him as he neared. Not startled, not apologetic, just present. "Good morning," she said simply. "Morning," he replied, still slightly stunned. "That was Mandarin, right?" She nodded. "And Spanish, French?" Again she nodded. "No. Pride, no performance, just fact. Do you Kona speak other languages too?" She took a small breath. Portuguese, Arabic, German, Italian, Swahili. She paused, then added almost like a footnote. "And I read Latin, but that's more for fun." Michael blinked. The silence between them stretched just long enough to feel like the beginning of something. "What's your name?" "Elena Morales." There was no business card, no LinkedIn profile, just a name stitched onto a patch above her heart. And in that moment, Michael felt something shift. Not in her, in himself. Because if brilliance was standing in front of him holding a mop, how many others had he missed? He didn't know yet that this single hallway interaction was about to send ripples through his company. That Elena wasn't just a linguistic anomaly. She was a mirror, a question, a quiet challenge to the systems he'd trusted, all. He knew, standing there with his cup cooling in his hand, was that he needed to know more. "Are you free for a few minutes?" Her brow raised slightly. "Now?" "Yes, if you don't mind." She nodded, and with that, they stepped into the elevator. He held the door open, and as it closed behind them, the buzz of the lobby faded. A silence took its place, not awkward, but full, like a breath held before a plunge. Michael didn't know it yet, but he wasn't the one giving an opportunity that day. He was about to receive one, the kind that reminds you what leadership really means, the kind that rewrites a company's culture from the ground up. And it all started with a janitor who just happened to speak 8 languages. They stepped into the executive suite, polished floors, soft leather, a view of the skyline that most employees would never see. Michael offered her a seat. She sat cautiously, like someone used to being invisible. He took the chair opposite, leaned, in just enough to make it personal. "Elena, I need to ask something that isn't on a resume." She folded her hands in her lap. "Go ahead. How did someone like you, someone this skilled, end up cleaning floors here?" She didn't flinch. Didn't smile. She just took a breath. "It's a long story. I've got time." She nodded once, then began. "I was born in Caracas. My parents ran a bookstore downtown. It wasn't fancy, but it was filled with words. Spanish, French, English, even old Russian novels. I used to read aloud to customers. They'd hand me books and ask me to translate just for fun. I fell in love with language before I knew what it could do." She paused. Michael watched her carefully. "I got a scholarship to study linguistics at the University of Barcelona. Then my mother got sick. I came home, worked as a translator part-time, but then everything changed." Her eyes dropped slightly. "The government cracked down. Our neighborhood got dangerous, jobs dried up. I left for the US with 1 suitcase and 3 letters of recommendation, but my degree didn't translate. No one wanted an undocumented translator with no US credentials." Michael didn't interrupt, just listened. "I cleaned houses, worked kitchens, did night shifts. Eventually, someone at a staffing agency placed me here. Said janitorial work was steady, union-backed. I took it. Needed the benefits." Her voice was steady, not bitter, just honest. "But I never stopped learning. I borrowed library books, took free online courses, woke up early to watch international news. Every hallway here became a lesson in silence and observation." Michael exhaled slowly. "You've worked here how long?" 9 years. He leaned back. "And no one ever noticed?" She shrugged. "People don't look for brilliance in boiler rooms. Her." Words landed heavy, like a truth everyone knows but avoids. He looked down at his notes. Blank page. No numbers, no metrics, just the quiet reality of a missed opportunity. He looked back up. "You ever think about doing something else?" She gave a small smile. "Every day. But dreams feel expensive when rent is due." He nodded. "What would you do if you could?" Elena looked out the window, then back at him. "I'd connect people, break down walls between cultures, help companies stop making million-dollar mistakes because they don't understand a sentence." Michael sat very still because he suddenly knew this wasn't a janitor, this was a bridge, one the company desperately needed and no one had noticed until now. Michael didn't sleep well that night. He kept replaying her words. Dreams feel expensive when rent is due. It gnawed at him. By morning, he had made up his mind. Sometimes leadership meant listening. Other times, it meant acting. And this was one. Those times. The office buzzed with its usual rhythm. Except today he had a different kind of meeting. 8 a.m. Sharp. A delegation from Global Tech's Tokyo office had arrived unexpectedly. The interpreter they hired was stuck in Denver due to a storm. Michael tapped his pen against the conference table. "We need someone, fast." That's when her face came back to him, clear as morning light. He left the boardroom and headed downstairs, to the service level. He didn't send an assistant. He went himself. The basement air smelled faintly of disinfectant and rubber mats. Past stacked mop buckets and vending machines until he reached the janitor's break room. Elena was there, reading something on her phone. She looked up, surprised. "Mr. Reynolds?" He gave her a quick smile. "I need a favor." She raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "Japanese delegation, no translator. You in?" She blinked, then nodded. "Give me 5 minutes." 5 minutes later, she walked into conference room B. The room fell quiet. No one knew her. But within moments they understood. She didn't just speak Japanese. She lived in it. Listened like a diplomat, translated like a poet. Nuanced tone, cultural cues, she nailed them. When one of the visiting execs cracked a subtle joke, she translated it with flair. The whole room laughed. She turned a tense morning into an effortless exchange. At the end of the meeting, one of the guests shook Michael's hand. "That woman," he said in perfect English, "is a treasure. Where did you find her?" Michael glanced toward Elena. "Right under our nose." That afternoon, he called a special meeting with his leadership team. Some eyebrows raised when he told them what had happened. More eyebrows when he said he wanted to create a new role. Cultural liaison, he said. Not just a translator, someone who understands nuance. Bridges gaps. There were murmurs, doubt in the room. One VP even said, "But she's janitorial staff." Michael leaned forward. "She's fluent in 8 languages. She has more cultural intelligence than anyone in this room." Silence. He let it sit, then added, "We've been paying consultants thousands to do what she did in a hallway, with a mop in one hand." That shut the room up. By the next morning, the paperwork was moving. HR drafted the position. A formal offer was prepared, but Michael didn't send it via email. He went to find her. She was in the stairwell, wiping down handrails. "Can I steal you?" For a moment, she looked at him, cautious. He handed her a folder. "Open it." She flipped through, read, stopped. Looked up slowly. "Is this real?" "Every word." "You want me in an office?" "I want you where your talents shine." She swallowed. "I don't have a blazer. We'll get you 10. She laughed softly. "You thought of everything." "Not everything," he said. "Just the important parts." She stared at the offer letter. Her hands trembled. "I've been waiting for someone to see me." He looked her dead in the eye. "I see you now." They shook hands. It wasn't just a promotion. It was a shift. Not just for her, but for every overlooked worker who ever felt invisible. The next day, Elena Morales walked into the building. Not with a cart, but with confidence. Not in uniform, but in quiet power. And though some people whispered, others watched with wide eyes, because a janitor had just become a game changer, and everyone was starting to realize it. Elena's new ID badge blinked green. Access granted. Her first step onto the 12th floor felt unreal. The carpet was thicker here. The air smelled like citrus and something expensive. No one had ever looked up when she walked by with a mop. But today, heads turned, whispers followed. She felt it before she saw it, the weight of visibility. She walked past sleek offices and polished desks. An assistant smiled. Someone even said, "Congratulations." Her new office was small, a desk, a plant, a brand new computer that still had the plastic on the screen. She set her bag down like it might not belong, then sat. Her chair creaked quietly. She didn't touch the computer yet, just looked around and breathed. It felt like stepping onto another planet, not because of the furniture, because of the view. For years, she'd only seen the skyline reflected on windows she cleaned. Now she could see the whole city. "Welcome." "Aboard," came a voice from the doorway. It was Victor Chan, head of international operations, clipboard in hand, tightly pressed lips, no handshake. "You're the new liaison," he said, not a question. She stood. "That's what I've been told." "You ever worked in corporate before?" "Only from the outside looking in." He didn't laugh, didn't smile, just handed her a folder. "You've got vendor issues in São Paulo, a contract glitch with Dubai, and a translation backlog from Italy." She took the folder. "I'll get started." "Good," he said, then left. The door clicked shut. She sat again, opened the folder, pages and pages of logistics, errors and crossed wires. Her pulse quickened. She hadn't done this before, but she'd studied every system global tech used, just never had login credentials. Now, she did. And by noon, she had flagged 3 miscommunications, rewritten a policy memo in Portuguese, and set a meeting with the Italian team for Thursday. By 2 p.m., she needed air. She took the elevator down. The doors opened. And for a second, she forgot. No cart, no spray bottle, just her reflection in the polished doors. She walked to the break room, A few employees paused their lunch. One whispered, "That's her." She poured coffee quietly, then turned and nodded at the table. "Don't stop on my account." They smiled, awkward but trying. She sipped, then walked the long way back, just to feel the space. By 3:30, her inbox had exploded. People were noticing. Requests. Came in from Germany, then Morocco, then a call from HR. "Can you review the onboarding materials for international hires?" She said yes, reviewed them, then rewrote half of them. Politely, effectively. She didn't make a scene, didn't flaunt a title. She worked, quietly, thoroughly. By 5 p.m., Michael stopped by. He knocked once, then leaned in. "How's day one?" She leaned, back in her chair. "I've had worse." He smiled. "Victor give you a hard time?" "He doesn't scare me." I figured. She hesitated, then asked, "Can I ask something?" "Of course." "Why me? You could have just given me a bonus. Maybe a thank you." He looked at her. "Because I saw myself in you." She raised an eyebrow. "You were a janitor?" "No, but I was invisible for a long time." He stepped fully into the room. "My dad fixed transmissions in a dusty garage. I waited tables all through college. I was always the guy they didn't expect much from." She nodded slowly. "Now you're the one holding the door open." "Exactly." The silence was different now. Not tense, just true. She looked at the window again, then back at him. "I won't pretend. I'm not nervous." "Good. Means you care." She nodded. "Some people won't like this. Let them talk." She smiled faintly. "I've got work to do. Then I'll leave you to it." He left, and she stayed, not as a visitor, but as a part of something bigger. That night, she didn't take the elevator down. She walked the stairs, all 12 floors, past every hallway she used to clean, past the silence she used to live in, each step forward, a reminder of what it took to be seen. By the end of her first week, people had stopped whispering. Now they watched, with curiosity, with caution, some with quiet admiration. Because Elena wasn't just doing her job. She was changing the temperature of the room. Every room she entered. Victor noticed it first. He didn't say anything, but his tone softened. His instructions turned into questions. "Can you look at this contract? What do you think we missed here?" He began to trust her. Even if he didn't say it, the international team started forwarding calls to her desk. Clients preferred her, vendors too, because Elena spoke in ways they understood. Not just language, but patience. She didn't talk over people. She translated silence. By mid-month, HR asked her to lead a cultural sensitivity training for team leads. She said yes, then rewrote the whole program. She included role plays, real-world examples, audio clips. The room was packed. Even Michael sat in the back, taking notes. When it was over, people stayed, not because they had to, because they wanted more. And the next day, Michael asked to see her. She arrived to find him pacing. "I've been thinking," he said. "We talk a lot about talent development, about visibility, but we're not doing enough." He paused. "How many Elenas do you think work here?" She smiled. "More than you think." "That's what I'm afraid of." He sat. "I want to launch a program, an internal talent accelerator, we'll call it. The Voice Inside." She raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like a podcast." He laughed. "It'll be better than a podcast. Workshops, language courses, mentorship, leadership labs, for anyone. Custodians, cafeteria staff, interns." She nodded. "And you want me to help?" "No," he said. "I want you to lead it." Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked down at her hands. "That's a lot." So was speaking 8 languages in silence for 9 years. She looked up again. "All right, let's build something." 2 weeks later, The Voice Inside launched. Flyers in every department, QR codes, a website, and most importantly, permission. Permission to dream, to be seen, to apply. Elena kicked off the first session with a simple slide, a quote. "Talent doesn't wear a uniform." The room was full. Janitors, receptionists, tech support, shipping clerks, all wide-eyed, all listening. She spoke, not like a keynote speaker, like someone who had been there. "You don't need permission to matter," she said. "You already do." By month's end, 3 people from the warehouse were learning Japanese. A night security guard had signed up for a business writing course, and someone from accounting volunteered to mentor. It spread, quietly, organically, like good things do. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. Michael received emails from team leads he hadn't heard from in years. "Whatever this is," one of them wrote, "keep doing it." The board noticed too. Numbers didn't lie. Retention climbed. Satisfaction rose. Turnover dipped. People were staying, engaging, believing. Elena walked the halls differently now, not like a visitor, like a guide. People stopped her to ask advice, to share ideas, to say thank you, and once to hug her. It startled her, but she didn't pull away. Because this wasn't just a job anymore. It was proof that companies don't change by policy. They change by people, by one person, willing to see, willing to speak, and more importantly, willing to listen. Elena wasn't just a new hire. She was a cultural shift, and global tech would never be the same again. By the end of the quarter, Elena's nameplate was no longer a surprise, it was a statement. A quiet reminder every time someone passed her office that brilliance doesn't always arrive in a suit, or from a resume, or through the front door. It sometimes rides the elevator after hours. With a mop, the media caught wind. An internal memo had been shared, then reshared, until one morning a journalist called, and a week later, her story was published. The janitor who speaks 8 languages. People read it, then talked about it, then shared it again. And something changed in the company, in the industry, in the conversations happening at water coolers across the country. It was no longer just about Elena. It was about who else had been. Missed HR departments from other companies reached out, asking questions, wanting to know how to do what global tech had done. But Michael was quick to correct them. "We didn't do anything special. We just finally paid attention." That same month, Elena was asked to speak at a leadership summit in Denver. She nearly said no. "I'm not a speaker," she told Michael. "You're a truth teller," he replied. So, she went, stood behind a podium, looked out at hundreds of faces, and told the truth. "I wasn't promoted," she began. "I was discovered. There's a difference." She paused. "For years, I worked quietly. Not because I lacked voice, but because no one was listening." She told them about Caracas, about the bookstore, about the cold stairwells, and the warm nights spent practicing new dialects. She ended with this: "You don't need new programs. You need new eyes." The room rose in applause. Some stood with tears, others with notes scribbled across notebooks. Afterward, a young man approached. "My mom's a housekeeper," he said. "She speaks 5 languages. I used to be ashamed of that." Elena touched his arm gently. "Never be ashamed of where brilliance comes from, only of ignoring it." Back at Global Tech, the ripple became a wave, more. Employees enrolled in Voice Inside. More stories emerged. A cafeteria worker with a background in finance. A shipping clerk who used to teach chemistry. Michael made it policy. Every manager had to spend 2 weeks a year shadowing roles below their level, not to supervise but to learn. "Walk the halls you never noticed," he said. "You might find someone who's been waiting for you to open a door." One afternoon, Elena walked past the original lobby where it all began. A new plaque had been mounted beside the touchscreen directory. It, "In honor of the voices we almost missed." She stopped, touched it briefly, then kept walking upward, always upward. So what did we learn? That brilliance doesn't come with a title, that compassion costs nothing but changes everything, and that sometimes the most transformative leadership decision is simply choosing to see someone. Elena Morales didn't rise because she fought her way to the top. She rose because someone finally paused long enough to look, to listen, and to believe. Now imagine if we all did that, in our workplaces, in our neighborhoods, in our homes. How many Elenas have we walked past? How many voices have we missed? don't just walk away from this video. Walk forward, look around, and ask yourself, who haven't I really seen yet? Because the next time you ride the elevator, it might not just be going up a few floors. It might be the start of someone's rise, maybe even your own. If this story moved you, share it not for clicks, but to remind someone out there that they still matter. Because brilliance is everywhere, and sometimes it wears a name tag and carries a mop.